Hello everyone, this is Cindy with J Spence Creations, and this tutorial is intended to complement the line of animated video card templates that I sell in my Etsy store. So this tutorial is helping you to know which items to edit and to customize to make it your own. So let's go ahead and get started. So you will get a link to the template when you purchase in my store, and that will take you to something like this. Now, this template is a single photo per slide template. So this tutorial will work with all of those that are in my store. I do have a separate tutorial that will be available for the multiple photos per slide templates, and those work slightly differently. So overall, similar experience, but there are slightly different transitions that I call out in the various videos. So let's go ahead and get started with this one. This first step that I will take is to make a copy. And the reason I do that is so that I have a clean version saved, and then on the copy, I can make the edits that I want. That allows me to be able to have some peace of mind that if I make a mistake, I need to go back. Sometimes it's easier to start over rather than doing an undo function. So this just gives me some peace of mind. So the way that I make a copy is File, Make a Copy, and then it automatically will bring up a new copy. Now the second thing that I do is I title this with my specific title. So I have highlighted this. I am going to go ahead and type in, let's say it's Smith Family Christmas Card 2025, whatever it may be, you would type in the title here. So those are two things that just from the start I would do really in any Canva template or any project I'm doing. So those are just some time savers there and will save you from forgetting later. Now we'll go into a few items. So the first thing being the font and the text. So if you see here, I have multiple text boxes available. So I have one here and I have one here. And then on the last slide, I have the same two there in addition to the greeting or the message that you want to send as part of the card. So going back to this, you can change this if you want, Merry Christmas or whatever you may want. You can change that. You do want to note that you can change the font style. So the name of the font is here. You would click on that and look through. One thing you want to be careful of is do not select any of the fonts that are kind of grayed out and have this little crown next to it. Those are fonts that are in the Pro version only, and you won't be able to use those. Or in some cases, it will allow you to use those Pro elements, but will charge you at the end. So just be aware if you are in the free version of Canva, which this one is a fully usable template in free version where you do not need to pay for any elements. But if you are changing things out, just be really aware that if you try to get something that has a Pro crown element, there could be a cost or it may not allow you to use. So anyway, you would change out any font there. This is the size of the font for the particular font for the particular text box you have selected. You can change the text color. You can change sometimes bold or italics depending on the font style, and then also underline. And you could do a few different things here. There are some effects available. I will not go into those in this particular tutorial, but those are available. So if you are a user who's familiar with that, you can always make those edits. But really, this template is intended to be more of what I would call a plug-and-play template, meaning you make the basic adjustments that you need, but you really don't need to spend much time on it if you don't want. If you do want to modify further, then the sky's the limit within the parameters of either the Canva Pro or Canva Free. But really, it is intended to be a plug and play. Shouldn't take you much time unless you really want it to. So with that, let's say we want to change our name. So my last name isn't Smith. I need to change that. If you notice, all of the slides have the last name Smith. So it is a template. You do want to go ahead and make a change that will go all the way across all of the slides. There is an easy way to do that, and I would make sure when you're getting ready to change your name, use this versus going in. If you went in and changed your name here, it would only change it on the slide that you are on. So what I really highly, highly recommend you do is go to File. You're going to go to Find and Replace Text. Now within that, you can either change, let's say you want to change out the entire thing and you can say The Smiths and it will highlight all of that. You can replace with something else, or you could just say Smiths. So if you want to just say, I want to leave the and put the Franklins, then you can do that. Now, do not hit enter after you type that in, because what you want to do is make sure you hit replace all. If you hit replace, that will only replace it on the slide you are on. So really important, let's go ahead and replace all. You see we're on slide 1. So again, this is highlighted down here. You can tell you're on slide 1. I'll go to slide 11. It's the same thing. And then slide 21, same thing, Franklin's. So you have done that. So that's first and foremost. That's the text, the font, all of that you can change. The second piece is the piece around the pictures. So this is what I think makes it really nice. That is where it kind of brings the photos to life by using this template. Now, while it looks like a static item here, what we're going to do is, and you'll see some of these transitions down here between every photo, what that does is it brings motion to the photos. So as opposed to printing off a printed card that is just the static photos, this gives some motion to your photos and it brings some life to it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, typically, and what you will do is you will upload the photos you want to use to your system. So you would bring it in, you'd bring it in a folder, have the photos ready to go. You would then go to Uploads. Now, there are two ways here to do that. You can either click Upload Files, and what that will do is take you to where you can search for the folder, and then you can bring in the pictures that you want. Or you can click on Uploads, have your folder separately. You can drag and drop those into the Upload section. But you do want to have your photos here ready to go in the Upload section. Now, for purposes of this, I am going to use the free Canva photos just to show you how to use these. So I'm going to go into Elements and be in a slightly different section, but don't get confused there. You will always be in Uploads. I'm just using this so that I can show. So we'll be back in a second with some photos. All right, so you can see I've got some previously used photos that I'm going to go ahead and show you. And these are, again, just for illustrative purposes. You will be in the Upload section when you do this. But you start on slide 1, and I'm going to go ahead, and you can close this out if you still have that open from the Find and Replace. I'm going to just drop in photos as we go. Now, these, I'll go back over here. This is a photo frame. So what that does is it allows you to drop in a photo, and it will snap into place. Now, one thing you can do, sometimes the photo may be slightly off center. If you double click while the photo is in the frame, you can see you can sometimes move this around. Now, it depends on the orientation of the photo. So if you've got a photo that is the wrong size and it may not be able to move around, you may want to consider using a different photo. So I will say not all photos are created equally for purposes of this, but you do have some options. You can also, so I can see I cannot move it left to right, but I can move it up and down because of the orientation. You can see the frame is behind it, so you'll want to make sure that clicks in, and then you can just click out and you're set. All right, so I will go and drop these in and be back in just a second. All right, so as you can see, I do have 5 frames that are ready to go. So I'm going to do a preview and then I'm going to call something out. But as you do a preview, and I'm going to actually, before I do this, I'm going to turn the volume down. I have this with music. I'm going to turn that off for right now, but we'll come back to that in a moment. But if you go to preview, all right, you will see that because we have these empty slides, it's going to keep going. So one thing I would say is I would make sure that you have the slides that you want before you delete anything. But let's say you've got your 5 slides in this case, and you're ready to go. You know those are the only 5 slides that you want. All right, so there are different views that you can utilize. So in this case, I'm in Pages, but I can also go to Grid View. And I think for Grid View, I like to use this when I'm deleting the extra pages for my file once I have these ready. So in this case, I'm going to click on file number 6. So you see it's highlighted with purple. I'm going to go down and go to slide number 20. I'm going to hold my shift key, left click, and you can see it highlights from 6 to 20. I did not select slide 21 because that will stay and remain as my last slide. That is really the greeting, the, thank you from our family kind of slide. So you really want to just delete the slides in between that have photos. So once you have those deleted, you can hit delete, or up here, you can hit the delete key. And now you see you have 6 slides, 5 with photos and 1 with the message. So you are ready to go. So now when you hit preview, you can see those sliding through. It lands on this and it's done. So that's the way I use that. When you want to get back out of grid view, you can click this and it takes you back to pages. And you can see it's significantly smaller because of the fact that we now have only 6 slides total. So that is how you download the photos. Now in this case, I mentioned I do have music, so I had muted it. I didn't want that to play in the background. So for my templates, I do include a link to 2 different templates. I have one that has music, and it is free music that's available through Canva. And I have a second one that has no music. So depending on whether or not you want music, you can open either link depending on what your preference is. In this case, I have a file. Now, let's say I don't really want that and I want to get something else. So here's how you do that. So I would highlight that. You see how it's got purple around it, and you see a theme there. So if you have an item selected, you see purple going around it. That helps you know that you've selected that. So I'm going to hit the delete key, or you can hit this, and it has removed music. Now, how do you get music that you want to use? So in this case, we're going to go to the left side and go to Elements. You are going to go to Audio, and we'll type in holiday music. Now, one thing that is a little bit, it may be a challenge, but when you type this in, if you have the free version of Canva, it does not allow you to search by free items, meaning that most of the front-loaded items are going to show the crown on the side. So you don't want to use those unless you want to pay extra. So I'm going to call that out. But you will see in this particular case, I found one. You see it does not have a crown. It is a free element. So if you want to verify that it's a free version, you can just go here and you'll see free. So what I want to do is click on this and hold. So basically you're going to click and it will bring it over. Now in this case, it dropped it only on slide 6 because that was the slide I had selected. You can left click and drag over, and that allows you to align it with all of your slides that you have. So now what that will do is music will play in the background. You do want to be careful, and what I would recommend is click on this. Again, you see the common denominator here. It's going to go purple around it. You do have the ability to change some things up here. I typically recommend going down to like a 20 or a 30 between there for the volume, because if you think about the fact that you're sending that to someone through text, through their email, if that music comes blaring out and they're not expecting it, they could be in public. So you just want to drop that down to an acceptable level. So I go ahead and do that. There are a few other things. Some of these are available only for Pro. I'm not going to touch anything else, but that is how you replace your music. Now I am going to go ahead and mute that again, because as we go through, you will see why I don't want to play music in the background just in case. But basically now we're ready. You could preview again. It would play the music if you have the volume on. You could do all of that. But I'm going to go ahead now, and here's again where the magic happens. It's when you download this to share. So again, as we talked about, it is going to download. You are going to go to an MP4 video. So that's the magic. That's where it's actually kind of showing that. I set it up to the transitions to make it look like letters are coming in, kind of bringing in the letters each time. So kind of a fun transition, but you want the video to bring that to life. So you will not have the ability to make any changes here for the quality, which is fine because 1080p is perfect for what you need. So no changes needed. The free version doesn't let you change. The Pro version does, but you don't need to make any changes anyway. You will leave it for pages 1 through 6 or whatever you have, and you're going to go ahead and hit download. Now down at the bottom, you see a status bar, and you will see the download item here. That shows you that it's downloading. It can take up to, a few minutes depending on the size of the file. But while we wait for that, we'll be right back and show you the rest of how to use this. You now have a file that is an MP4, which is pretty universal. You are able to email that to yourself. You are able to send that via text. So maybe if you did this on a computer, you may need to email the file to yourself, download it on your phone, and then you can text it from there. You can upload this to social media. You can send it to family, friends. You can send it to clients. Maybe if you're a business, you can adapt this to be a B2B type of situation. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this file. Again, the template is really intended to help you. It's a plug and play, but if you want to make those changes like we talked about, you can do that, make it your own, have fun with it, drop in pictures. If you need more slides, you can always duplicate slides. And like we talked about, if you need fewer, you can pull those back and delete the ones you don't need. But I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have fun with the templates and happy creating.